In this episode of the Quo-Cast, I shall be giving my thoughts on the new 8 CD box set of Quo Live, which was released a few days ago. But first, let me give you a little bit of context about the release. It has been nearly 50 years since British rock band Status Quo released their first official live album in early to mid 1977. It was recorded in October 1976 at the Glasgow Apollo over 3 nights. And then the best kind of performances from those 3 nights, or what they deemed to be the best at the time, were then compiled into the finished album, which was introduced on record by Jackie Linton. Is there anybody out there that wants to rock? Many people shared that sentiment and still do, because Quo Live has become incredibly well regarded, and I think is often considered to be one of the best live albums of the 1970s. And I think one of the contributors to this fact is the energy that's on it and the big build-up that they'd had at the time. You know, they just released earlier that year Blue For You. They'd had several hit singles, and they were riding on this wave by the seam of it. And some people see it as something of an end of an era, but that is a conversation for another day. Another unique thing about this album is that there are no overdubs. At the time, some of their contemporaries were doing overdubs on albums just to polish things up, right? Just to clear up any mistakes that happened on the night or whatever. With Quo, everything you heard on there was as it was. I guess in some cases, recording it over 3 nights meant that they could get the best. They didn't need to overdub, and it gave you the impression of what a Quo gig was actually like. So this release is 8 discs, as I say, and basically the first 2 discs are the original album as it was released in 1977, with the set list: Junior's Wailing, Backwater, Just Take Me, Is There a Better Way, In My Chair, Little Lady, Most of the Time, Rain, 4,500 Times, Roll Over, Lay Down, Big Fat Mama, Don't Waste My Time, Roadhouse Blues, Caroline, and then finishing off with Bye Bye Johnny. This is the album as it was released, so it's just been remastered there. The only difference is that the order on the discs have been placed in the order they were played, because originally they were shuffled around a little bit to help accommodate the space limitations of the vinyl format, which at the time was, the most dominant of them. And so the rest of the discs on here, 3 and 4, night 1, 5 and 6, night 2, and then 7 and 8, night 3. I often see this question of, did they play any extra songs? No, there is only that set list. It's exactly the same set list across all of the discs, because they're playing, 3 nights in a row, 27th, 28th, and 29th, and they're trying to nail down, the best performances for that live release. But here is the thing, right? So I put in night 1, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, because contrary to popular belief, they didn't use all of night 1. It's kind of a mix. I think there's some from night 1, some from night 2, and then night 3, I think there's 1 from there, based on the research that fans have done in the meantime. And so hearing this, there's some performances in there that I hadn't heard before. And there are differences. I mean, 4,500 times, across all 3 gigs is different, because it's essentially a jam with solid bits in there, because that they've got those solid things that they're definitely going to do. You've got the song bit, and then you've got like little instrumental bits that are 4,500 times. But the way that they get there, the solos from Francis Rossi will be a little bit different over there. He'll be trying different things each night. And I especially draw attention to that third night when, he really is trying out some different stuff there. And I've seen some great comments relating to that. It's well worth a listen. And there are other moments, across all of these nights that are really memorable, and like you might not notice too much of a difference, but they are there. There'll be a missed note occasionally or a change in something. I don't want to spoil it too much, if I'm honest with you, because it is an exciting thing to put it in and go, I wouldn't have heard a lot of this, especially with night 3, pretty much. But night 1, I really enjoyed. I put it on my hi-fi over there. I was rocking out. And here is the thing, right? I have seen comments from people asking, is there a difference? Well, these nights have been mixed by Andy Gamble and co. at AVP Media from the original master tapes, and they are tremendous. What a mix. There is a huge difference. And I know that Andy Gamble himself has said to me that the original mix was kind of ambient. You could hear the kind of crowd and the echo in the hall, perhaps, whereas with this, they've taken some of that away. There's a little bit less of the ambient mics, and you're hearing what was coming out of the guitar cabs and stuff, and from the actual microphone that Francis Rossi and Rick Parfitt and co. were singing into. So you get this much fuller sound. I mean, goodness, it was quite a shock when I put on that first disc and Junior's wailing comes on. And you've got Jackie Linton's intro, which is different across the 3 nights. He's trying different things, and then they'll pick the best one for the album. It's interesting hearing the different variations. But Rick's guitar comes in, wham, you're right in, right? It's right there in front of you. I'm stood in front of the speakers, it's right there. And you've got John Coughlin's kick drum, and it's proper there, bum, 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 bum. And you just, by the end of listening to that first night, it was somewhat overwhelming because it felt like I was actually there, like really intense, and you could feel the energy, and there's so much clarity in this new mix. You can hear everything that's going on, everything in regards to the band. It's this full sound, every kind of note that Francis Rossi is doing, especially during like 4,500 times and some of the solos and like Backwater and stuff. You've got Alan's vocals coming in, his bass thumping. During In My Chair, there's that da 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 that Rick does, and my goodness, it was like, whoa, what a sound. I mean, the points during Little Lady where you hear Rick coming through, what a voice, coming through, piercing through the mix. And then during most of the time across those 3 nights, hearing the audience, you still hear the audience, it's just not quite so ambient as it once was. And so, over those 3 nights, there is a little bit of variation in sound quality, because I believe by the second night, they had changed the positioning a little bit. And I did notice maybe there was a tiny, tiny drop in quality, and sort of a couple of things, maybe errors there. But, that's the beauty of this, is that you're hearing it warts and all. One of the biggest revelations to me was that you're hearing the audience chatter, and because it's on CD, it's completely like unedited pretty much. I mean, they might have been changing over the tape or something at this point. Maybe there's something there. But there are extended moments when you're hearing Francis talking to the audience, and, reacting to things that are around him. And you can tell he's just trying to fill time at times, because John's got something with his drum or something, and you'll hear the crowd, doing that Quo chant, and the band will be joining in, and like there's so much life in there. And I found myself laughing several times, at some of these things where you go, well, it's night number 3. They sound like they're having a blast. They sound like they're more comfortable. And yeah, it just helps to make the entire thing even better. I know that the track listing, looks samey, but there are differences in there that will, for some fans, will just, to use my dad's phrase that he used to use to me all the time, knock your socks off. It is just such a joyous thing. And yeah, what else can I say about the music? It's just phenomenal. Phenomenal to hear the band at this point in time. This is considered at the peak of their powers, I think was used in the booklet. But Leah, let's talk about the physical product now. Inside the box, which isn't really a box, it's sort of a cardboard slipcase, which, was slightly disappointing on first. But I find that when it's a box, the contents can get a little bit stuck inside. And on the front, you have the original live album artwork. On the back, the track listing with all of the tracks, and it looks kind of repetitive, but like I said, the contents, there is enough variation in there. We have a booklet which has got all kinds of information. There's a little essay by Dave Ling with quotes from interviews with all band members and Bob Young as well. And there's some great information in there. I didn't know that the Glasgow Apollo stage, for example, was like 8 or 9 foot high. That is incredibly huge. In addition, at the back, there's also a little kind of essay by Andy Gamble talking about the remixing process. And throughout, there's just lots of photos, unseen bits, from magazines and promo shots and concert shots and everything at the time. Is just great to see. Now, if you think back to the original live release, you'll remember the record sleeve had portraits of the band on them. Well, they are represented here via this kind of fold-out cardboard sleeve, which is really cool. So it's nice to see those there, because I'm sure that's very much a memory for many people. And then on the other side, we've got newspaper articles about the recording of the live album. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. So when you look inside this cardboard sleeve, what you see is the discs inside these cardboard slits, for want of a better phrase. And the bugbear that I have with this design is that the end ones are easy to get out. You can just slide them out, although I do worry about damage to the disc. But the ones in the middle, for example, CD2 and CD3, is much harder to slide out. You have to sort of do this weird finger maneuver thing where you put your finger in, but then you start worrying that you're going to break it. That's something I think that maybe should have been looked at. But the thing is, it's nice to see all of this artwork here represented. I just wish that the CDs had been kept in perhaps an easier to handle thing that's not going to break, quite so easily. But, it is more eco-friendly these days. They don't have to use plastic in there and stuff. I would have liked to have seen them put this into like a gatefold CD thing with each individual night, very much like the box set that was released 10 years ago, where it was like individual gatefold sleeve CDs. So there are 2 holders in this set, one with 1 to 4 in it, and then one with 5 to 8 in it. And it's different artwork for this, where they have included contemporaneous images of the band live at that point. Really cool to look at and study, and so much more artwork to interpret here, and to give you a flavour as to what you're hearing as well, and what the stage show would have looked like, and allow you to imagine it in your mind. The discs, when you can get them out, are orange, and they have the number disc on them, the night, and all the information that you would need there. I love the kind of uniformity of the design, and the fact that you can quite clearly see which night it is. So that's really cool. In conclusion, I really like this package, but I do think that it has some flaws. Like the packaging, like I said, which I just feel like, although the cardboard is kind of hardy, I feel like I have to use too much, force to try and get some of those discs out, and I feel like I'm going to break something at some point. But I can't fault the presentation, the extra images, the newspaper articles, the booklet that has been well researched, the little thing at the end to tell you exactly why this sounds absolutely phenomenal. I felt like listening to all 3 nights, like I've experienced, Quo live. What a difference. And with that in mind, I'm not sure that the original edition of Quo Live needs to be on here. I mean, I guess it gives you something to compare to, and for completists as well, or for some people who want only one edition of this album and they get the original in there with the entire thing. It makes it into an entire package, and of course the record label can use this original image and kind of sell it off its reputation. But I do think that has sort of muddied the waters a bit, because to some people it's looked like it's nothing more than a rehash of that original album, just a reissue rather than a full-blown remix, newly mixed and mastered, 3 nights, some of which has never been heard before, pretty much night 3, apart from 1 track, never been heard before. But this kind of confuses the issue a tiny bit, I think, the cover and the fact that that original live album is on there. But like I say, I can see the benefits as well. Let me know all your thoughts on this release. Will you be picking it up? It's retailing now between sort of £69.99 and £75. That does, I know, to some people seem like a lot of money, and it is, right? But you're getting 8 discs in here. I mean, that's the other thing as well. If that live album wasn't in there, perhaps the price would be a little bit lower as well, because they wouldn't need to manufacture so many discs, and it would perhaps be more in reach of some consumers. But the performances in here, the experience of hearing the Frantic Four, plus Andy Bown on a couple of tracks as well. I forgot to mention that, actually. He is slightly higher in the mix, but only on sort of the couple of tracks that he appears on, and it's still not that intrusive either. It all adds to the experience. Status Quo, Quo Live, available now. I will leave affiliate links in the description below. Will you be picking this up? Let me know all your thoughts in the comments below.